Hello, everyone. Good evening again, and thank you for joining in this section. It's nice seeing everyone again and waiting for more people to join in. But never mind, we're starting off, and today's session is just going to be for safety. But this time around is not all about the computer safety per se, but because our everyday life, we need one help of the other. And we have parents in our midst that struggle with a lot of things that have to do with safety in general. So because of this, we find it difficult. We find it important to deal in this type of topic, which some parents have requested for, or one thing or the other that they feel is important to them concerning safety. So because of that, we are treating this topic, and that's reminds me that if you need any topic that is that you're not comfortable with, or you feel you really need help with, you can always come on this section, because the Thought Foundation is a foundation that have to do with enlightening people, making people to be productive and effective in the society in which they live in. And at the same time, we've tried one means or the other to look for how people will support our project. If you have opportunity to volunteer with us, we will be very, very happy to accept you. We will appreciate that. And if you want to contribute in one way or the other, you can always go to our site. There is opportunity for you to do that. Again, if you feel you need a one-to-one help because you can't really leave your home because of maybe disability or one thing or the other, you can always call on us. You can chat with us. You can send us email privately. We'll try to help you, because this is all about the Thought Foundation. We are there to make learning ongoing. So we don't have limits to learning and deprivation, disability, or you are not capable of doing one thing or the other, do not really deprive you from learning. So because of this, we are always here, because we've got a project that is called skilling and upskilling and reskilling, which has been sponsored by the National Lottery. They are there supporting this type of project. So we are on ahead airing this for people like me and you to benefit from. So I will use this opportunity to welcome Joy to help us to give us more light about safety walking home from children. Thank you, Joy.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Nice to be here again. Thank you, Owa. Can everyone see my screen, please? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. So like Owa has explained, excuse me, we're going to be looking at basic street safety for children. And we feel like this topic is important because every parent here, every adult knows how busy our streets can be and how, it can pose a threat to the safety of our children, whilst they are out and about. Children usually don't have the ability to judge things like, distance, speed of vehicular activities around them. So as adults, we do, but they don't. They don't necessarily have the abilities to do that. And that's why it's more important to start teaching about street safety while they're young, from a young age. They're never too young to learn these signs and to learn safety, because once they learn it from a young age, then it's embedded in them and they can apply it when they come of age if they're, walking independently on the streets. So this session is about showing us parents the steps that we can take to help our children stay safe. And also this session is very basic. It's I would say that it's a lot of the things we know, it's common sense, but it's the question is whether we're really applying it, whether we're really following the recommendations, whether we're doing it correctly. Sometimes we know what to do, but we're not really doing what we know is right. We kind of, use shortcuts, we jump the guns and all that. So this session is like a reminder, like a refresher, and like an awareness kind of training or workshop, if you like, to help us as parents look at how we can keep the children safe. Even if you've got young children or slightly older children, it doesn't matter, because it's applicable to all age groups. And when it comes to safety on the street, age is immaterial, because when disasters happen, it can affect anybody. So we all have that responsibility to keep ourselves safe. So for the purpose of this session, we're going to be breaking down the learning points into 3 parts. So we would look at method 1, walking safely with a child, and then we'll look at what you do when you're crossing the streets, and the last point will be about being an engaging teacher. You, the parent or the caregiver, as the teacher, or the guardian as the teacher, even if you're not a parent, but we are all adults, and you have people that probably look up to you. You have nieces, nephews, you have children. Sorry, so you have children that come around you and that you take care. You probably have godchildren. So it's still relevant, even if, we don't have very, very young children or biological children of our own. So we're just going to start straight away looking at method 1, walking safely with a child. What are the things that we need to do? What are the things that we need to be mindful of? What are the steps that we need to take? What are the actions we need to ensure that we're following? And not just us, but also the children. So the first one is accompanying children under 10 years old. So this is subject to, people's opinion. It's recommended that you accompany your child if they're under 10 years old. I mean, independence is great. And I agree that children develop differently. Like I said, some 10 years could be very sensible, matured. They know what to do. They've been trained from a young age, maybe others not so much. It just really, really depends. So it is recommended that, you accompanying, if your child is under 10, they should be accompanying whilst walking on the street. The streets are very, very busy. There are moving vehicles, signs, lights, plenty of distractions. No matter how sure you are that your kid knows what to do, they need time to develop. And like I said, all children develop differently. So after your child reaches their 10th birthday, it's up to you to decide if you feel that they're ready to do this on their own. If you feel like they're ready to be on the streets on their own, from A to B, depending on where they're going. It might be school, it might be to the shop. And if it's not right, that's fine. You can continue to teach them or train them. So teaching young children to hold onto your hand whilst you're walking on the street, and do not let them run ahead of you. Again, so that's the recommendation for very, very young children. And we know the reason for this, an obvious reason. This is to keep them safe whilst they're on the streets. Okay, so the second point is putting away phones and other distractions. Aren't we guilty of this, even as parents? I see situations where even drivers are using their phones, and, which is not recommended. We all know that it's against the traffic rules. It's the same as a pedestrian, as somebody who's sharing the road with other motorists. It's highly recommended that we try to avoid using mobile devices or any kind of devices. And the reason being that, it's a big distraction. It's a big distraction. It means that you're not really aware of your surrounding. You won't be aware of things that are happening around you. It also means that if there is an emergency, or if maybe like a motorist has lost control, you won't be able to respond in time. So your reaction time is going to be significantly low if you're using your mobile phones. And I'm sure a lot of us, agree with this point of view. And as parents, we need to set good examples. We need to live by examples, because if you're on the phone, you're texting, you're calling, you're talking, and your child is there, even though you're not driving and you're with a young child, you're going to be distracted. And the child might think that that's totally acceptable. And, it just breaks that communication between you and the child. So if you're supposed to be teaching the child, some good safety tips, you won't be able to do that because you're on the phone, you're distracted, you're doing something else. And the reaction time is going to be significantly low. So walking safely with a child, you have to make sure that you put away your phones and other distractions. Put away your phones and other distractions. Headsets. Again, you might not be physically holding the phones, but headsets. We see a lot of this trend now where people, especially young people, and even some adults, they have their headsets on and they're just moving like zombies, Some people are even crossing the road, not even being very aware of incoming cars. And sometimes you have to beep your horn to alert them that, there's a moving vehicle, And also you can see that sometimes people are on their phone and then they've walked into lampposts. People on their phone, they've bumped into other people. They're not really aware of other pedestrians who are sharing, the space with them, sharing the roads with them. So again, all devices, it's recommended that it's put away, especially if you're going to be training your child on street safety. Even for the teenagers, if it takes you wrestling them to put them away, then so be it. Not literally or physically wrestling them, but again, it's just setting good examples for our young children. So again, walking safely with a child. For the benefit of those that have just joined us, we're looking at basic street safety for children, and we're looking at the steps that we as parents can take to support our children to learn about safety whilst on the streets, to learn about safety whilst on the streets, to learn how to keep safe, basically, and this is in preparation for them when they come of age and are able to move from point A to point B independently. So the next point, it's about walking near low-speed roads without much traffic. So the best locations for learning street safety are the least intimidating ones. And the reason for this is that, we're in the capital city, which is usually quite busy. And even as a motorist, it can be quite intimidating. There are some people that don't drive in certain areas in London. They'll tell you that, oh, it's too busy. Oh, the traffic sign, that roundabout is too complicated. That road, that junction is too busy, So there's some people, so even for motorists, they find it intimidating. And it's the same when you're trying to teach your young ones safety rules, safety regulation in a busy road. It can get very, very complicated, very busy, very intimidating for them. So the best recommendation is to, if you're really serious about road safety rules and keeping safe whilst using the road, is to use slow and low speed roads because they pose less threats. And these kind of roads are often found in community side roads away from town centers. Take the time to plan out your walks. So if you're really going to be proactive, and we'll be talking about proactiveness, in this forum, taking the steps, going out of your way to make conscious, reasonable steps towards achieving a goal, towards doing something. And if you're one of those parents that's serious about teaching your children to learn the road safety rules for them, then you should be calculative about it. So you won't just leave the house and go to any road. You should sit down and plan. It's like somebody who's trying to, I don't know, let's say if you're trying to, you're probably taking driving lessons. Your driving instructor is not going to take you on the first go to the busiest road. With my experience, we probably went outside of my area and we went to a less busy area where, things are not so fast moving, where I can take information, I can slowly and comprehend it, you know, according to my pace. So it's the same. If you're going to be proactive, then you pick your locations very carefully. Take out time to plan it out. Residential streets or crossing with lots of pedestrians can be good learning spots for children, but just make sure that there's a real balance. Otherwise, you know, it can get very overwhelming for the child. So now the next area, still talking about, you know, walking safely with a child on the street. So the next area is about wearing colorful clothing in the evening. And this is, you know, if this is possible, we know that, you know, if you have your way, you wouldn't want your child to be walking on the streets at night on their own. But sometimes it's difficult for you to avoid this, especially in the winter months where, you know, we've got shorter days and longer nights. It's very difficult for you to avoid this. And it's important that other motorists, other road users are able to see, identify, and recognize that there's a pedestrian walking maybe on the roads or trying to cross. Even with bikes, you know, we notice that a lot of people use high visibility, maybe straps or maybe bag or vest. It's highly recommended. I'm not saying that, you know, your child should go about with a high visibility vest, which some of these workers wear. But if at all possible, it is handy for them to wear bright clothing. And not just them, yourself also, so that you can be easily recognizable, you can be visible at night. Because if you're wearing dark clothing like black or blue, you're going to blend into the night. You're going to blend into the darkness, and then that reduces, you know, your safety. That makes you vulnerable even at night, and it means that you're less visible as well. So again, to follow proper street safety rules, such as obeying traffic signs and utilizing crosswalks, is even more essential at night, that you wear bright clothing if you can. So the next step, whilst you're walking safely with your child and teaching them about safety rules, is to explain the street signs frequently. So not just one-off, but frequently. You know, be sure to point out every sign you see so that your child learns the difference between the different signs. For example, you may see a stop sign, crosswalk sign, street signs, neighborhood watch sign. It's exactly the same as when you're learning how to drive. You need to learn the signs. And with children, they need to learn the basic sign. And they need to learn it, and you need to explain it to them. They're not just going to magically know it because, you know, somebody's got to tell them. I mean, even if you don't tell them, after a while, they notice repeated patterns and they kind of figure it out. But at the same time, just to be able to clarify any doubts that they have, to clarify any wrong information that they have, it is best that you explicitly explain it to these children, explain it to your child, what the sign means, what red sign means, what the green light means, what the triangular sign on the road means, what they need to be doing as pedestrians, and what is expected of them. So, and the thing is that once you start explaining to them and you ask them, at first, you know, they would explain it back to you based on how you have given them that information. That's good. But after a while, whilst you continue to reinforce the information to them, you would notice that they will be able to explain it to you back in their own words. And that's how you know that they've fully comprehended and understood the information that's being passed on to them. So explaining the street signs rather than assuming or jumping to conclusion that they would automatically know what they mean. They don't, just like adults, just as how we need to learn the road signs when we're learning how to drive, children also need to be able to learn it. They need somebody to explain it to them in simple terms, and also explaining to them in practical terms. They need to see it happening. They need to see it in action. And that's where communication comes in. So you're going out with your children. It might not be that you're deliberately out because you want to show them about road safety, but it's keeping that communication going whilst in the car, whilst, I don't know, you're walking to the shops. It's just naturally keeping that communication going and ensuring that they're aware of their surroundings, their environment. That's how they learn as children. So again, the other point is showing them what traffic signal means. Again, you never have to think of what a signal means as an adult. So you take them for granted. And that's absolutely true because we've been around for quite a while. We know these things. Even if nobody had told us, we've seen them in action. We're able to deduce it in our head, what it means, you know, but children have no concept of the meaning of these signs. And it's the responsibility of the adults, of the parents, to explain it in simple terms to them. So the next step and area to look at is how we can teach children to stop at all roads. It doesn't matter whether it's a busy road, it's a very quiet road. It doesn't matter whether cars are hardly going through that road. The rule, and the primary rule, is that they must stop at all roads. And this is a primary concern for parents. The reason being that children are usually very fast on their feet. I can imagine, you know, even when I had my kids at a very young age, when they were at a very young age, you're going somewhere, you're going to the park with them, they're always well ahead of you. And the number one thing you tell them is that they must stop at every junction. It doesn't matter whether it's a junction to an estate, because there could be cars pulling out of those estates. There could be cars pulling out of those, you know, those corners, those narrow roads. So they must stop at all roads. It's a training, it's an instruction that you must give to children right from the word go. As long as you've started teaching them and enlightening them about, you know, safety on the street. For instance, a ball rolls into the streets. That's a very common example. They're playing maybe in the garden, I don't know, or maybe probably in front of their house or the driveway. They're playing and they're playing a ball game and the ball rolls into the road. What would the child do? I think their first instinct most of the time is to run across and get the ball. But again, with us parents reinforcing that, you know, that's not the way to go. That's not how you do it. They must wait, they must stop, they must look, they must inform an adult. If they need to cross the road, if they need to go to the other side to get their, I don't know what it is, it might be the ball, they must instruct an adult. You know, they'll learn to wait until the coast is clear and get across the streets in a timely manner, not just strolling, in a very timely manner. You know, I heard a story about one of my clients who's, I think she lost her child at an adult age, but the reason why this child died was because of an accident the child was involved in, a road traffic accident the child was involved in at a young age. So very often the child would go to the neighbor's house just across the road to play with, you know, the neighbor's children who were of similar age as her son. And they did this regularly, very regularly in those days. This is about, I would say about 20 years ago. And what happened was on this particular day, what this woman does is that she escorts the child outside of the house. She stands by the door and says, okay, now you can cross over. She looks over the child. She's supervising whilst the child is crossing, and then she can say, you can cross over. And the other parent is on the other side waiting for the child. On this particular day, she did the same thing and said, okay, that's fine. It's good to go now. You can cross over. But lo and behold, what happened? There was a car coming at a very high speed and they didn't realize, and the car knocked the child down. The child didn't die on the spot. The child sustained, you know, very terrible injuries, you know, punctures to the liver and some of the organs. And he was able to be managed, and he grew into adult age, but then that gave him complication in his health. And at some point he passed away. So that's very, very, you know, that's very sad. And the mother up to today feels guilty, you know, that she could have done more. You know, she could have done things differently. And it's very easy to blame yourself, you know, it's quite upsetting, you know, for that kind of incident to happen to any family, to anybody, you know, let alone your child. So it just reinforces the importance of, you know, obeying, being very careful, being extra careful. And you're not just careful for yourself because you've done all the right thing. You're careful because you're aware that other road users might not be as careful as you are. So you're thinking ahead, you're anticipating the reactions of other road users. So again, you must teach them to stop at all roads. And then having children facing traffic when there's no sidewalk. Again, this is common sense, but we don't always adhere to it. So it's always better when you're on the roads that you're walking against oncoming traffic. So you're walking and you can see the oncoming traffic, oncoming vehicles. They're on the opposite side of you. It's safer that way. So if there's any car veering towards you, any car, or I don't know, any motorcycle or bikes that's lost control veering towards you, you're able to react and take steps to protect yourself and protect your child. So it's very important that we have children walking facing traffic when there's no sidewalk. So this is another good tip that you can, you know, re-emphasize to them, especially if they're going to be on their own, if they're going to be walking to and from school and so on and so forth. So the next point is to walk as far to the left as possible when there's no sidewalk. In some of these countrysides, there are roads where there's no sidewalk, there's no paving for people to walk on. So if for any reason you have to walk through that road, it's very important that we keep as far as possible to the left. Okay, children are harder to see than adults, so getting off the road is necessary. You never know when a car will drift over to the line. Even when you're on the sidewalk, placing your child to the left of you can protect them from an unexpected accident. So again, it's very similar to the other points. Make sure you're walking on the opposite side of incoming vehicles, but not only that, making sure that you are into the left as far as is possible, and that your child or young person, it's to your left and you're to the right. So that protects them more, and you're able to, because as an adult, you're able to probably take steps, you know, to keep both yourself and your child safe. And like we've just read, it's harder for children to be seen. So it's better that they're to your left as far as is possible, especially when there's no sidewalk. And we have to then teach awareness near driveways, and teach our children awareness near driveways and other blind spots. So these are areas that we can't really avoid. So you're driving across a driveway, there could possibly be somebody in the car on that driveway trying to pull out, or they're trying to reverse their car. That's happened numerous times. And again, children are very little. It's difficult to see them. They could be on their scooter, and they could, to be honest with you, they could even be on the paving. They could be on the sidewalk. They're within their rights, but they have to go through driveways, and they're quite little. So it's very important that children are aware of it. Adults, you're aware, and also you teach your children to be very conscious of it when they're walking near driveways and blind spots, because they tend to be particularly dangerous spots for younger kids. And this also includes like alleyways and corners. Remind children that drivers can see them very well, and they might forget to slow down. Have them to stop and look before continuing your walk. Teach them how to respond in this situation, such as by jumping back or freezing in place. Absolutely right. So teach them, like, discuss worst case scenarios. What could you possibly be doing if you saw a car just driving out or reversing or coming towards you? You know, what would you do? What would you possibly do? How would you know if a car was coming in? you know. So have these discussions with the children and teach them, you know, to be very, very aware and conscious of alleyways, blind spots, and driveways. Okay, so we're going to watch so that's pretty much some of the steps that we can take in terms of when we are walking with our children on the streets, in terms of the steps we need to take, the actions we need to take, the education that we need to provide to children when we're walking with them on the streets. So let's watch a very short video. It's literally about 3 minutes, just to buttress everything and give us a nice break to kind of reflect on what we've just learned. And also just to bring everything together. Okay, so just bear with me. I'm going to stop sharing and then share my screen again.
Okay, class, who would like to do problem?
Sorry, this is not the video.
3 on the board. Please don't be.
Yes.
Okay, this
Come
is
on, Mom.
So let's be real. Some days are hard.
Sorry, guys, bear with me. My mouse is a little bit jumpy. Can we hear?
Mom, pay attention to where you're going.
Just a second, I have to answer this.
Come on, Mom. Answer it when we get to school.
Almost done, I just have to... Now what do they want?
Excuse me,
I said just give me a minute.
ma'am? These guys are right. You keep walking that way, you'll end up flat. Like me. Just because there's a crossing guard doesn't mean you shouldn't stay alert. Stop at the curb. Wait for the signal. Psst. That's your cue. There. Then you walk across. Never run. Always paying attention to the cars around you. The crosswalk is like an extension of the sidewalk. Traffic signals will tell you what to do. There's one now. Hiya, Bob. Hey, guy. Wait at the curb till you see a walk signal. Then walk across while still watching and listening for cars. But when there is no crosswalk or pedestrian signal, don't worry. Wait for a green light straight across the street. Then look left, right, left for stop traffic, and behind for turning traffic. When clear, walk across while still watching and listening for cars. Occasionally you'll have to cross where there is no intersection, but this looks dangerous. Better find someplace safer. Remember, sometimes it's good to go out of your way. Much better! Now, look left, right, left, listen, and walk across. What? No sidewalk? If you find yourself in this situation, walk as far on the side of the road as you can. And always go against traffic so you can see what's coming at you. It helps to make eye contact with drivers so you know they see you. Good morning. Lovely day for a walk. Even when you're looking out for them, they may not be looking out for you. That's why you should always pay attention and never get distracted.
Yeah, Mom. That means no cell phones.
Right. No cell phones, no earbuds, no video games, and no horseplay. Walking's serious business. But that doesn't mean it has to be a drag. Just stick with an adult or an older sibling, follow my tips, and you'll be walking like a pro. Plus, you'll be safe. Unlike that girl. Uncool.
See, Mom, that could have been you.
Guys are right. No more texts.
Yeah, besides, you gotta keep your head up to enjoy this beautiful day. And if you're walking in the dark or low light conditions, remember to stay visible with light-colored clothing and reflectors. Without these, I'm practically invisible. Whoop, that's my sign to leave. You guys have fun, and I'll see you on the way home.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Right. Hello, everyone. Are we here?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. Hello. Hello. So yes, so that was a very short video clip just to, as I said, buttress everything that some of the things that we've talked about around keeping our children safe whilst on the streets. Did anybody have any contributions about that? Did it make sense? It's quite simple. Did anything strike your mind? Is there anything that you saw in that video that you learned, or any comments, any suggestions, any questions so far on the points that we've talked about?
I saw the lady using her phones. I was
Just like many of us, isn't it?
oh my goodness. That's why we have opportunity to do this. You know, there are things we really need to learn from. And it's gradually, it's not something we just push ourselves to the wall and say, today I must do it. But let's start from somewhere, you know. A lot of things that happen to a lot of people because of using of cell phone. Mostly when you have a busy life, even some start watching movies on their way. That is, at least you can still excuse those that really wants to answer emergency. There's no room for that. But you watching videos, clips, or films on your way, no, that's totally unacceptable. But I'm a victim of this too, because one cause or the other, I want to, you know, let me quickly answer this. Oh, there's a lot of messages that I need to respond to, you know. I'll quickly, okay, at least if I do this on my way, even when I go jogging, if I do this out of it, it's out of the way. By the time I get home, I know I'm answering on other people's, replying to other messages, but it's not acceptable. Let's think of it. There is only one way to life, you know. One is gone, you know, so I'll leave the rest to you, Joy.
Thank you. Any other comments or contributions from anybody else before we move on to our next segment?
I think there is someone that left a message. Let me see. Thank you, but unfortunately, I'm having problem with my phone. I can't hear what. Okay, that's fine. It's
Okay.
Rosemary. Rosemary is having problem with her phone. She says she can't hear. I think.
Or maybe she needs to log out and then join in again or something.
I'm going to do that. I'll send her a message.
Okay, thank you. So yes, like Owa said, as parents, we are very, very busy. And we are so used to multitasking, you know, trying to do many things at the same time, because it feels like sometimes we don't have enough time in the day to even finish all the things that we need to do. So as you're on the move, you're replying this email, you're texting this person, you're making this phone call. And to be honest, a lot of us do it. It's just the session is not a session to kind of condemn or criticize anybody. It's just to create more awareness about our actions and the consequences it has, and how we can start making small changes, small, gradual, incremental changes to the way we do things, because our children, they are watching us, you know, they are learning from us, so that we can keep them safe. At some point, they're going to be independent. They're going to be doing things on their own, even before they get to adult age. So why not start preparing them from a young age? And that's the whole point of it. We can see that the lady was using the phone. She wasn't able to make eye contact to the motorist. And she wasn't paying attention because it's a massive distraction. So let's just be careful about that. Now we're going to look at the other methods. So we first of all looked at crossing and walking on the streets. Now we're looking at crossing the streets. How do we cross the streets? Sincerely, honestly. We know that it's not every time that we use the zebra crossing or the crosswalk as they put it in this slide. How do we cross the streets? How do we cross the road? Do we go out of our way to make sure that we're doing it safely, whether the kids are there or not? And most especially when we're walking or, you know, around with the kids, how do we cross? Have children always cross at the crosswalk, end off. It must be at the zebra crossing. If there's no zebra crossing, it should be at the traffic lights. Many adults put themselves at greater risk by scurrying across the streets whenever they want. And for some of us that probably, you know, grew up from in the other part of the world, we didn't have, to be honest, we didn't have zebra crossing and traffic light crossing. You just have to find a way to cross the road, the very, very busy road. It's always like that. So we're kind of used to it, and it's very easy for you to, you know, carry on with that habit without you realizing, without you being, you know, conscious of it. And it's very easy for you to also pass that on to our children or our young ones, and they can learn very easily, whether, you know, it's busy or not. If there is a zebra crossing, make sure that you're using it, you know, and, you know, that's a very dangerous lesson to show a child if you're not actually following this recommendation. So guide them to the crossing zone, even if you must go out of your way to do that. We must model good behavior to our children by always using the crosswalk. If you witness someone else crossing in properly, you can remind your child that that's a dangerous thing to do. That's incorrect, even if you're not the one who's doing it. So you can remind them, you can start up a conversation. You can talk about the consequences of not using the crosswalk, what could potentially happen, how it can be really detrimental to that person, how it could lead to fatality, how it could lead to, I don't know, you know, serious accidents, and how it could change people's life. If you have younger children, hold their hands, because sometimes they tend to just want, even if at the zebra crossing, they want to just run across. Have you noticed that sometimes it's not all motorists that stop at the zebra crossing? So even if there's a zebra crossing, you still have to wait, stop, look to the left, look to the right, just as we've seen in the video, to make sure that, and sometimes if possible, make eye contact with the motorists to make sure that they've seen you. Some motorists are so distracted, they're probably, you know, not in the moment, they probably zooming off and have not noticed that there's a zebra crossing. So just because you have right of way in a zebra crossing, it doesn't mean that you just zoom across. No, you must stop, wait, hold on to your child. Okay, so also remind your child to stop and look both ways, exactly as I just said. Before you step into the street, have them to look for any danger. It's like when we, the adults, do the hazard perception test, when you're trying to prepare for your driving lessons, or you're preparing for your driving test. There is the hazard perception test. It's there for a reason, because as a driver, you have to look ahead. You have to be thinking ahead. You have to anticipate other people's behavior. And you're doing that by looking out for danger. You're looking out for hazard. So continue looking and listening. You're not just using your eyes, but you're also using your ears. You're listening because you might not see it. For some reason, it does happen, but you can hear the cars coming. Cars that appear distant may reach you faster than you expected. So you might think, oh, this car is still very far, I might be able to cross. But you might not be able to gauge their speed and their distance, and more so difficult for children. So drivers also make mistakes. They are not perfect. They're human beings. They make mistakes too. So it's up to you and your child to protect yourself. We have that responsibility to protect ourselves, our children. The children have that responsibility if they're going to be walking alone, to protect themselves by waiting until the coast is clear before they cross over to the other side. So have children make eye contact with drivers whilst crossing. So the road is never, is an ever-changing place, ever-changing in the sense that, you know, there is motorists, there are different users. It's not just motorists, there are cyclists, there are motorcyclists, there are scooter riders now. Okay, so there's motor scooters, there's also the electronic scooters, there are e-bikes. So even a situation that appears safe can quickly develop into an accident. So having your child search out their eyes for drivers that are approaching, excuse me. So it's looking out, it's making contact. And we do that even as drivers. If you drive here, you're trying to pull into a road or turn into a road, you're making eye contact. You're probably almost halfway, but you want to be sure that the driver has given you the go ahead for you to, you know, pull in before you completely do that. So drivers, you look in the eye, are more likely to stop because you've made eye contact and you're sure that they have seen you. Your child will soon recognize drivers who are paying attention. Now, just bear in mind that not all cars have clear or transparent windscreen. So for cars that have, you know, tinted glass or windscreen, it's even more difficult. You have to be more careful with that. It's not practical for you to make eye contact because they've got dark glasses, windscreen and windows. So you just have to pay extra attention to those kind of cars and motorists. Hold a young child's hand as they cross. So anyone who's been in the presence of a young child knows how much. So we've talked about this already. We know how much they can get really excited, you know, very enthusiastic. They're happy, probably not so aware, you know, they're in their own world. Children are usually like that. They don't have anything that they're thinking about like adults, you know. So again, make sure you're holding their hand. They're not just zooming through, they're not just rushing or running down the road whilst you're crossing. They're not running ahead of you because sometimes they think it's a race, especially when they've got siblings, you know, they like to do this race, they want to go right ahead. No, make sure that you're holding their hand. At least up to the age of 6, lead them by their hand. If it's your teenager, grab them too, if you have to. Even as adults, sometimes unconsciously, when you're crossing the road with another adult, unconsciously, you just hold their hand because it's something that you're probably used to, let alone adults. So it's a good practice. There's nothing to be ashamed of. The children, when they get to a certain age, they don't want you to do that. But then again, you can still keep an eye on them, especially the older children. Explain the danger of crossing between parked cars, like we can see in this picture. So the car, the blue car, there could possibly be somebody in that blue car trying to reverse. I mean, I've been in a situation whereby I was trying to reverse my car just to pull out and start heading to my destination. And I didn't realize that there was a bike parked behind me, and I just knocked off the bike very gently. I wasn't in any speed or anything like that, but I just didn't see the bike. It was a little bit too low for my car. So these things can happen, especially with younger children. If they're cross, some children could be 10, 11 years, could be 12, but they're smallish in stature. So they're matured, they're sensible, but they're smallish in stature. So they're more difficult to see. So motorists, it's very easy for them to make mistakes, and, you know, it could be very disastrous. So always explain the danger of crossing in between cars. And then, so that's it for method 2, crossing the streets. Method 3, it's really straightforward. Be an engaging teacher. Every one of us is a teacher. You might not be a teacher by profession, but as a parent, you're your child's #1 teacher. From when they're born, you're teaching them things. You're teaching them life skills. You're teaching them about your life experiences. You're teaching them directly or indirectly because they're watching you. They see what you do. They're with you majority of the times. Even when they come to school age, they still go to school for about 6 hours, but then they spend majority of their time, majority of their life with you until they come of age and they probably move out of the home. So be an engaging teacher in the sense that let's try to communicate with our children ever so often. You might think it's irrelevant. No, it's not irrelevant. Children have a lot of ideas in their head that they probably can't express, that they probably can't understand. They see things, they watch things on the TV, they see things at school, they hear things, they read about things that they're not sure about. Be an engaging parent, be an engaging teacher, even whilst you're trying to keep them safe and educate them about, being safe on the streets. Engage with them, communicate with them. Some of us, we're in the car, we're going somewhere with our children, and there's complete and total silence for 20 minutes. Why is that? Nothing to talk about? There's always something to talk about. And so for some people, it's the way we probably grow up. In some cultures, sometimes, you're scared to talk about certain things with your parents. You're not too comfortable. It's a little bit disrespectful if you're asking too many questions or if you're too much in their face. So therefore, as parents, we then transfer that to our children. No, be an engaging teacher. Keep your instructions short and clear. Don't sit them down and start telling them stories and stories and stories about how to keep safe, about life. It doesn't work. Keep the information and instructions in bits. That's what we sink in because they comprehend that better. Model safety behavior. You're their number one role model. Even whilst you're driving behavior. If you don't walk all the time, or you're not, because of maybe your location, because you're always, I don't know, maybe there's not much public transport, or you're always on the move in a vehicle. They are also watching your driving habits, how you liaise, how you talk or behave to other motorists, how you react to other motorists' behavior, whether you yourself as a driver, you're observing traffic rules and laws. Be a role model. We are their number one role model. Make learning fun with games. You can make it, especially with the younger ones, you can make it fun. You can, I don't know, ask them questions. You can create a quiz. You can have like fun cards, colorful cards that you could use at home, depending on what you're teaching them at that point in time. Make it fun. That way, it sinks more, they understand more, they'll be more engaging, more interested in whatever you're teaching them. And give the child a little bit of an executive power. So let's say, for example, you're on the road, you're going somewhere. Sometimes you can ask them to take the lead. Let us know when you think it's time to cross. Let us know when you think it's time for us to turn left, whether we need to stop, whether we need to go, whether we need to look. Just give them a little bit of control. That gets them excited as well. And then they also learn easier and better when they're in a group of friends, group with their siblings. That's an opportunity because, it gives them, it's more interactive, let's put it like that. And you get different ideas, different opinions, different questions, and they learn from each other. So again, be an engaging teacher. I cannot even overemphasize this point. For us as parents to communicate more, better, frequently with our children. Every child is different. The method I might use in communicating to my child might be different from the method that you use. It's your responsibility to understand your child, to understand what method works best for them, how they learn, understand their learning. Some children they have very short attention span. So there's no point you sitting them and trying to, no, it doesn't work like that. Give the points and the instructions in trickles every day, but just consistently, saying the same thing until it becomes a part of them. And it becomes a part of you, because as you're teaching them, you're also teaching yourself. You're reinforcing those instructions, those actions to yourself. And I know there's a saying that says, do what I say, not what I do. It doesn't quite work like that. Children, they will do what you do. They will do exactly what they see you do. The actions they take are very similar to the actions that they've seen you take. So in as much as you're giving them instructions, make sure that you yourself as a parent, as an adult, is following that instructions as well. And hopefully, we will do our best as parents to make sure that they grow safely and they become, successful children in whatever their endeavors are. And they have good values and they're sensible and they have the right moral compass as children. So that's the end of our teaching today. I just wonder if anybody have any questions, any contributions, anything that stands out for you, any comments, please feel free. Any questions, anyone? Especially about communicating with our children, engaging with our children, being an engaging teacher. Any question, any comments? Anything you'd like to share? Any experience that you think might be useful for us on, or if you think that you have a slightly different method that you use that works for you, then that's also okay. Okay, if there's none, I'll hand over to you, Owa.
Are you sure with all this, we don't have something to ask Joy? We just want her to go with those information. I think there are some reserved information that that's with her that we need to exploit. You know, can we ask question, please? Nadine, are you there? Antonia, we have a lot of, don't we have questions to ask? Like I said, we're not going to make this session a very long one because it's just basically planned around.
Oh, it was good. It was good, very interesting. So I really enjoyed it. I don't have a lot of questions to ask.
All right, lovely.
But thank you. It was very, very, very good session.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Nadine.
Nadine.
Hi, hi.
Okay, I've got John here at Tamburi. I don't know, who is John?
It's not John, it's Josephine.
Okay.
Philip's mom.
Phyllis, okay. I'm reading from, I think you're using the different
Yeah,
IP.
it's registered as,
Okay, all right.
name.
Nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the section.
Yes, I did. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, good. Good, good.
Okay.
Yeah, in absence of any other question, I want to say if you have some important or a pressing need that you need to ask, or things that you are not very clear of, it doesn't really mean the topic we are treating at any particular session. You can easily send me a text so that we'll work on it, because this training is all about functional skills, you know. And I was going to ask a particular question, if we can do that, Joy, something that have to, because most people shy away from this topic, you know. I know the mental health session will be coming up at the end of this month, but there's this particular topic that most parents that have young teenagers shy away. It has to do when to introduce sexual education to them. You understand, it's somehow difficult for most parents to do. I know someone have asked me, when is the right time, you know? Is it topic that you feel we should treat? You know, if you want to sort of ask, if you want to throw it open for everybody to make suggestion, do you want us to treat it, or you just want us to discuss it between me and Joy? Joy, is this something you want us to talk about? Because I know sort of in a way you have experience in that field as well, you know. Is it something? Is it something you want us to treat so that we can?
We can treat it, but the audience has to also tell us. They have to tell us whether they feel is a topic that is relevant, that they will find useful for them.
Yeah, because we have parents that have male children growing up, teenagers, or young girls growing up to be a teenager. You know, sometimes even when they are out of that teenager range, but these hormones playing in them, in their head, what do we think? When do we try to introduce it? What do we say to them? You know, these are topics we can easily treat as well, you know, because this, the foundation is all about, as in enlightening people about the functional skill. And for you to be operating in dysfunction. You have to have the sanity of your home should be balanced, you know. And if your children are giving you problem, you can't function, even when you want to get into one bit of a job, career, and all that, you know. So we need to balance our balance it in life, you know. I want to say thank you for coming in again, and we hope to see you again next week. We are planning to have a mental health section, so I just want to sort of inform you at hand. Let's get prepared. It's going to be a powerful one at the end of this month. It's strictly mental health section, you know, and we are going to treat a topic. Well, that is, I will introduce the topic to you so that you plan ahead for it. It's about mental health in children. There is a lot of thing about mental health in children. So let's see how it works and how parents detect this is mental health and how to respond to it. Thank you once more. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 You're welcome.